Xtreme. Good evening, everybody. This is Hughes Pop Wrestling Podcast. How's everybody doing tonight? Tonight, our guest is the current AIWF World Television Champion. He is the one-man enterprise, the bona fide certified all-around sports entertainer, endorsed by the wrestling gods himself, Hollywood Flynn Hendrix. Tonight is Flynn Hendrix' anniversary of his first wrestling pay-per-view. Welcome to the show, Flynn Hendrix. How you doing today, my guy?
Right now, I am thoroughly impressed that introduction was done as smoothly as it was, because knowing even me, I would stumble over that. So, I mean, fantastic. And, you know, funny you mentioned the anniversary of the pay-per-view thing too, because literally this time a year ago, I'm backstage getting ready to figure out when I'm getting carted out to the stadium to do that spot on the pay-per-view or premium live event, whatever you want to call it now. So it's, I guess, serendipitous that we're doing this right now. It's fantastic, but I'm glad to be here.
No problem. Thank you for showing up. You know, I got to start on a start-off question, but because it's your first year anniversary of that pay-per-view, let's talk about that pay-per-view. What can you walk us through that night, that day, and the whole event?
Man, okay, so that was my first time being back with WWE since 2014. I was there originally the week after the Ultimate Warrior passed away, 2 weeks after WrestleMania 30. So the night they did the tribute for him and everything, I was there. And that was, back then, that was a very nerve-wracking experience. I was a little bit younger, but that was in those Vince McMahon days when you would hear about people walking on eggshells backstage, and that's no exaggeration. And you were told, you know, don't talk to them if you bump into them. But who do I bump into coming out of catering, walking down the hall? We make eye contact. I'm supposed to look at this man and just say nothing? Like, here he comes. And I just say, you know, Mr. McMahon, thank you for having me here. And he goes, I'm glad you're here, pal. And then it just kept going. But, you know, it's like, if I'd have followed that rule, I might have just been thrown out right there. But going back this time, I didn't really know what to expect. I wasn't there with anybody that I knew. But it was very laid back, very low key. There was 5 of us, and the environment was a lot more welcoming, a lot more laid back. Like, we could go out and sit around ringside while they were prepping things. Nick Khan and his youngest son came out there, and, you know, everybody just out there cutting up. The Undertaker came by and talked to a few of us, got to cut up with Charles Robinson. You know, like, it's just really laid back, really low key. And then Jason Jordan comes and pulls a few of us aside and says, hey, we need you guys for a security segment tonight. It was me, a guy named Luke Sampson, who's from the Nightmare Factory down in Georgia. And it was a female trainee of Dr. Tom Pritchard's who ended up doing the nurse segment right after for Liv Morgan and Ron Rousey as well. And then there was another guy from Louisiana that I can't remember his name for the life of me, but we all got to do that spot and had no idea it would be front and center, because I'm just thinking, don't get in the Stars' way. Don't get in the Stars' way. But man, it was a surreal experience.
Nice. Well, first of all, I'm gonna show you got some fans here. Have faith. That's Miss Dawn from TikTok, and we have another one, Joe Haglin. Nice beard. So the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast. Welcome to our show, and we'd love to start off by tell us about Flynn Hendrix.
For sure. So let's see. Where do you want to start? Do you want from the beginning? Do you want the home life? Where do you want me to start with that? There's a bunch of different places we could go.
Let me see. Next on the thing is your acting. So from the beginning, I guess shoot from the beginning.
Okay. I mean, I grew up in a house where I didn't have like the strongest father figure. I'll go ahead and put that out there now. If it wasn't for my godparents, you know, helping, and my grandmother helping support my mom, me and my sister would be anywhere near where we are today. So if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even have a strong foundation for what a father should be or anything like that. I would have had no opportunities to pursue my goals. And, you know, whether they've understood it or not, this is what I've pursued, and on and off, you know, I've tried to walk away from it. But I mean, like they gave me the opportunity to do so many things. I had a musical background because of them. I had a chance to go to college because they were able to help and keep me on the right track to pursue things instead of just being a guy that ended up in trouble. But, you know, a lot of my life has been having to grow up a little bit quicker because I felt with my dad out of the picture most of the time, I was the older brother. I had to help my mom, and I didn't have a rebellious phase like most people did. I might have had an attitude here and there, but I love her to death. But my sister was the one that would turn the hairs gray and kind of had to, whether I needed to or not, be a second parent in that regard. So I kind of had to grow up a little bit quicker, and it I don't want to say it robbed me of childhood, but it made me grow up a little bit quicker, whether I realized it or not. And it's kind of something that I've carried over to this day too, where I don't really see the fun in things until they happen.
Okay.
But I was also very shy at the same time. So getting into entertainment, getting into drama back in middle school and everything, being that fat kid that wasn't really talkative or outgoing, it gave me a chance to explore these different characters and have fun and show personality that I probably wouldn't have got to show to anybody in a classroom or outside of that, or even at home because I'm in my room reading a book, doing homework, or just trying to stay off from the mom and the sister fighting and all that fun stuff. And then band trips, I'm just sitting in the back of the bus trying to sleep till we get there and hoping nobody pulls a prank on me, just
Yeah.
waiting to get that performance high. But then college comes along. I didn't end up pursuing music like I thought I would, but I found out a guy a year younger than me in high school that we had mutual friends with was a professional wrestler about 10 minutes from my house at a place called Stadium Inn in Nashville.
Okay.
And, I find out about it, and a guy named Tony Falk was the one that ran the promotion, ran the training school. And at the time, Chris Michaels, legendary guy on the independents, I'm sure he'll come up more in this conversation, was originally going to be the one to train me, but he and Tony had a falling out. So he suggested I just go and continue and talk to Tony and go from there. I completely skipped over this part, but my sophomore year of high school, I find out I've got family in Memphis that is closely connected to Coco Beware. And originally he was going to be the guy that was going to train me once I finished college. But this other situation falls into my lap. He knows Tony. And I explain the situation to him. He gives me the blessing and says, as long as you're going to continue going to school throughout this, I support what you're doing. And I know Tony will take care of you. So we get into that. And I mean, it gave me a drug that pretty much kept me away from other drugs, to be completely honest. Like I never had to chase an addiction or chase a high because this performance thing, going from a shy kid to just being able to unleash it, even if I was uncomfortable being the good guy or the baby face, the protagonist, whatever you want to call it. At the beginning, I wasn't comfortable in that regard, but I loved performing, whether the people cheered or booed or not. And it gave me a chance to grow out of being the fat kid in high school to a 140-pound 18-year-old to this right here. And I mean, it's grown and it's grown and it's grown. But like I mentioned earlier, I tried to walk away several times as well, and it never worked out. Started a family, thought I wanted to be done then. It seemed like the perfect time. Came back, inadvertently walked away another time, just didn't renew my license in some states and thought, okay, this is it. But, had 2 kids at that point, and I realized I just didn't feel fulfilled anymore. And I noticed a guy named Steve Bloom has ads popping up on Facebook for how to become a voice actor. Find out my neighbor up the street's a voice actor and start pursuing all this stuff. And, you find a chance to be creative and pursue these endeavors. Like you put a lot of time and a lot of money into it, like you do with wrestling. And you realize you're having fun, but unless you're performing in a workshop, because this is all going on during COVID at the same time, you don't really get that high of performing in front of people anymore. Like you can do it in a Zoom setting. I've done improv with people across the world in Zoom settings and had fun. I've done directed sessions, but when you're not in front of that crowd, it's like you're getting a fix, but you're still chasing the dragon because you don't get those opportunities. But then as things started to lighten up with COVID, I got more opportunities to do some independent film work and then do some stuff in comedy clubs. I joined the American Immersion Theater and started doing like improv shows with groups and individually for dinner settings and different things like that. And in all honesty, if I hadn't had the wrestling before that, I would not have had the confidence to jump in like I did with this. Because, a lot of people in the acting world told me that wrestling is not going to help you here. Like somebody like a Bob Bergen, who people may know as the voice of Porky Pig, like he said, wrestling's not going to help you here. But it's helped me quite a bit. And I was able to bring that up to him after the fact. And his words were, I'm glad I was wrong. But
Right.
when I come back into this, because, somebody like Terry England and Vic the Bruiser say they want me to come back, you come back and you realize you've got all these different things in your repertoire now, and everybody's out here doing these athletic things now, or everybody's doing boom, 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 all these different offensive moves back to back to back. I get a chance to come back and be different because I'm bringing a hashed out character that I fully am immersed in, who is authentic to who I am, that these people pick up on and believe in. And it gives me a chance to be different and be authentic at the same time, where somebody else on the show may not be as authentic. They may be entertaining, but it's just a different flavor to it. And it's made it so much more fun coming back, that I've got so much more in my wheelhouse now that I can do, but I'm also not putting the same wear and tear on my body, if that makes sense. And I know I
Right.
took a long way around to get to the answer on that, but the acting has been something that just, it's been a godsend more than anything, whether I've realized it in the moment or not. But it's helped center me, it's helped ground me, and it's helped me be in the moment where I can experience and appreciate these moments that are happening, like the SummerSlam experience. And it's a whole different world that I can't really describe unless you've been in it. Then you know what's going on and what I'm trying to articulate here.
Okay. Awesome. So growing up, it sounds like you didn't watch much wrestling as a kid growing up.
In all honesty, it's so funny because I go back and I've seen home videos, like first Thanksgivings and things like that. What's on TV in the background? Survivor Series of all things is on. So it's like it's always been around me. My grandmother and grandfather used to go bowling and dancing with Nick Goulas and his wife back in the day. My godfather would always watch Monday Night Raw in the late 90s. I remember the first thing I ever saw on WWE was Stone Cold versus The Undertaker. Then didn't really stay connected to it. Saw the This Is Your Life Rock segment. I think everybody was really high on that, whether they cared about the ratings or not and all that.
Yeah.
But I still didn't get into it right away. And then I know we just passed the anniversary for it, but we were on a family vacation down in Daytona Beach, and we got tickets to Bash at the Beach 2000, where the whole incident with Hulk Hogan, Vince Russo, Jeff Jarrett, and all that stuff happens. And I'm 10 years old, about to be 11 at the time, and I don't remember anything from that pay-per-view other than two drunk guys fighting behind me in the back.
Oh, no.
It's so crazy that that moment in history, that's the only thing I remember. And I still have the ticket stub over in my storage closet here, but it's just like that's the only thing I remember. But I didn't even remember witnessing history happen. But in early 2002, a group of my friends was getting real big into it because Triple H was coming back from his quad injury. Vince was bringing in the NWO, and they were all getting together to watch these shows. And I didn't want to be the guy that was left out, so I got into it. And then I turn it on, and it's Hulk Hogan attacking The Rock with a hammer and then hitting him with a semi truck. Like, what is this? Is this something you can see on TV? Then it builds to WrestleMania 18, and I'm just like enthralled with what I see and the reactions these people are getting. And then lo and behold, a month and a half later, here comes Judgment Day to Nashville. So my mom gets tickets. Me and my friend Chris go with her, and I'm hooked from the gate. You see Undertaker get his 4th championship. You see a Hell in a Cell match. You see Eddie Guerrero and Rob Van Dam, one of Steve Austin's last pay-per-view matches at the time. Like, there's so many things that happened that was such a great pay-per-view, and it's like, this is how my fandom started. Like, Ruthless Aggression was where I got bought in hook, line, and sinker for pretty much until COVID happened.
Wow, crazy. So JB, got anything for him?
Yeah, what made you want to become a professional wrestler?
See, this is where it all kind of came together for me. I mentioned, knowing Coco earlier in the conversation. I met him in Memphis because we went down on my spring break for a SmackDown that was happening leading up to that WrestleMania 21. I meet him, and he's maybe an inch or so taller than me. I'd always thought about it, wrestled in the backyard with my friends and all that stuff. But it's like, I wonder if I could actually do this. I meet him, and I see that he's a thick guy, but he's not the tallest guy in the world. So maybe there's a chance. And then he starts talking about training. I wasn't exactly sold on it yet, but then a couple weeks after the fact, I see WrestleMania 21, which was a pretty stacked card in itself, but the one match that has always like stayed at number one for me happened on that card, and it was Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, first time meeting. And I don't know what made that match so special or what the chemistry was with those two guys, but that put Shawn Michaels as my number one favorite to this day. And that match just, that's what made me want to do this. Like the reactions, the storytelling, the way the commentators reacted to it. Then you find out the way people backstage reacted to it. It's like two pros of their craft just working a masterpiece, breaking some rules, breaking some time limits, and then still getting applauded for it. And then you find out that it's impacted so many other people along the way. It's just, it's something special, but that's what hooked me in. And I fell deeper in love with it from there.
Wow. Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing the stories.
Of course.
So obviously in the beginning, there has to be a training school you go to and all this stuff. So can we walk through the that kind of concept of training, where you train, who trained you, and how really rough was it?
So here's where it started out. In this hotel called the Stadium Inn, as soon as you walk in the door, just to paint a picture of how, we'll say, seedy it was, right by the desk to the right when you walk in, it says drug dealers and prostitutes keep walking. You go further into the building and there's these two double doors that used to be a buffet room, and there's a wrestling ring in there. Now, my first couple of sessions, this was a pretty nice wrestling ring. There were 3 different promoters that ran out of there. It was Tony Falk. I think the hotel owner, his name was Bill DeShields. I didn't really have a lot of interactions with him. He ran a promotion there, and then there was another guy that ran on a Wednesday night, and it was his ring. Well, as things go in wrestling, they had a falling out, so he just up and took his ring. So I come back my third Sunday into training, and there's a completely different ring in there. It looks like it survived like three missiles being dropped on it. The ropes were made of tape. The turnbuckle pads were made of tape. It had seen better days. Then come to find out the canvas of it was literally like a boxing ring almost. It was nothing but carpet and plywood with a cover over it. You take your first fall, your first bump on that, and it takes the wind out of you, even if you've gotten used to bumping. But when I got in there, I had no clue how to do a front flip. I had no clue how to do shoulder rolls, any of that stuff. I was very uncoordinated, had no clue what to do. But thankfully, the trainers I had at the time were, Tony Falk. He was kind of overseeing it. There was a guy based out of Chicago named A.M. Vision who was very instrumental in helping me. And then Tony's son, LT, was very instrumental in completing the training. But, different guys like Tracy Smothers or even Kid Cash on occasion would pop in too. And, they would throw their input in. They would have us run matches and drills and all that. But it's funny because I learned so much stuff that I never thought I could do. And now it's like second nature. I may not get the most height on, doing a flip or something like that, but I can do it, which is impressive enough to me. But I mean, it's just like, you don't realize how difficult it is to hit the ropes or run the ropes. And something that Kid Cash had me do, and this was years into my career, run the ropes straight for 5 minutes. And that's the only time I have ever done a drill or anything physically active. Like I train pretty intensely in the gym. I do cardio, different things like that. But doing that for 5 minutes is the only time I've ever thrown up or been forced to throw up after something like that. It's its own animal, and it's so different that there's really no way to describe how intense it is. But if you've got an athletic background, you'll probably come in and adapt to it a little bit quicker. But getting used to falling was probably the hardest thing because your body's not used to that. You try to avoid that. But, it's just you have to get it down to a science. You have to learn to do it and not smack the back of your head. You have to do all this stuff. And the first couple sessions, you do walk away with bruises from hitting the ropes or a stiff upper back or whatever it may be. Like, you walk away from all this, and there were people in my training class that didn't come back because that wasn't what they signed up for. But once you get used to it, I hate to say it becomes second nature. You just don't really realize it until you slow down again. But it will definitely take some getting used to because the human body is not made to go through that. But you build up this callus to it that you eventually become used to it. But it's very intense if you're being trained correctly.
Now, in training, do they teach you more than just hitting the ropes and taking bumps? Do they teach you promos and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. If it's a good training school, they will teach you that. They'll teach you the foundations, the psychology, and they won't move you on until you get the basics of that, because you can go out there and wrestle, but if you don't have a personality, these people have nothing to connect to. So a good school, and this is something that they did, I do wish we would have focused on it more, but a lot of my stuff was kind of, people discovered it after the fact. Like I would cut a promo in training, but then it was a lot of in-ring stuff more than anything. But when I finally got the chance to go heel is when they discovered I could talk. And then it just became a part of my thing from here on out. Oh, and Rick is in the chat. Hello, Rick. But yeah, it's definitely something that I think a good school should teach. And then psychology too. That was something that came a little bit later, but in all honesty, I learned more about psychology with the people I was around and the people that I rode with that were veterans, because you can lay a match out. You can say, I'm going to do this, this, and this, but if the crowd doesn't react to it, is it worth doing? If you can't explain why you're going to do it, why does it make sense to put that effort in? And that's something that I really wanted to understand. And it's something that I think has helped me greatly, because you see a lot of people still that may have been in for a good while that don't understand the full basics of psychology. And that's another thing that acting has helped me with too, especially method acting, because you get in the mind of this character or this person. Why would I do this? Why would I kick this person in the knee if I'm cowering in the corner? Why would I do this? Why would I do that? And it's just, it makes it make more sense, and it makes it more relatable to the people that are paying the tickets to see it too.
Okay.
But it's something that I know Dr. Tom teaches now at his school up in Knoxville or around that area. And I know that it's something that like the Performance Center works on quite a bit as well, like the promos, the character development. And I think that's the biggest thing right there, is the character development should be one of the biggest things, along with the foundations and the fundamentals that wrestling schools do focus on. Because if you don't have that, you're not a total presentation. You don't have the full package.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So would it be safe to say that those people that call wrestling fake, if they were spent one day hitting those ropes and taking bumps, do you think they'd change their mind?
I would hope so. Now, there are some people, and I think I hate to say we figured it out in today's day and age, that no matter what happens, no matter what they see in front of them, they will deny it. They will argue. But I definitely think there are some people that would not be able to make it through the training, let alone be able to deny it after the fact. And I mean, I even had a guy at a convention I was at earlier this year, and we'd met the year before. He told me his biggest goal was, I wanted to be chopped by a wrestler. I wanted to know what it felt like. I wanted to know if it was fake. And lo and behold, I mean, and if you want to go to my link tree after this and check out the video, it's on my YouTube. I chopped him, and he ended up falling to his knees, because like you find out that that's an open hand palm to somebody's chest, and it's not fake. Like, and granted, I hate using this, but just because something might be predetermined doesn't mean it's always going to go that way. I've been in tons of matches where somebody has gotten hurt, where somebody's knee has been blown out, and you have to change things on the fly to adapt to that. My best friend in a match before me blew his knee out, and everything just kind of goes into topsy-turvy right there. And if you don't know what you're doing, you have to be able to adapt to that. So what if that guy was supposed to be the guy that wins? What happens then? Is his injury fake? Is a body slam fake? And you hear the old adage from chiropractors too, taking one body slam, taking one bump is the equivalent of being rear-ended at 20 or 30 miles per hour. And I see a chiropractor once a week. I should probably go more. But I mean, it takes its toll. It may be predetermined, but the physical impact and the miles you put on your body in the cars, or if you're flying, that's just as detrimental to your body as the physical impact you're doing. So you can call it fake, but it's really an insult, because it's like calling an actor fake. We know that it's entertainment more than anything. It's a character. That's not this person in real life. It's for your entertainment, but this person is using their body as their means and their medium to entertain you. So it should be given a lot more respect than it really is.
Yeah. Justin, you got anything?
Yeah. What had to be your toughest match that you've been in?
The toughest match that I've been in? Oh, okay. Man, that's a tough one. There is one that jumps out to me. This goes back to 2012, actually. And it was right after the 4th of July. I was wrestling for a company called NWA Main Event at the time. And this was probably right around the time of the Bruce Starr version of the NWA. I think Rob Conway was the world champion, and I'd already done, one challenge against Kevin Douglas, who was champion at the time. I was the NWA Mid America X Division champion, and we were performing in a building in Nashville in the dead of summer that had no air conditioning, no AC, nothing. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little hungover from the 4th of July the night before, got up, went to work, came there. But we did an hour-long Iron Man match in that building, and we went all over. Like we had some issues with this promoter who was a little bit of a shady character in of himself. Like we destroyed the concession stand. We fought all around this big gym that we were in, and for an hour we did that with no air. That like they had to open the doors. You could see the fans sweating and everything. And it didn't hit me until well after the fact and well after I was home. It was just like this massive adrenaline dump, and it was intense, but it was very fulfilling. But and I do hate it for the guys that had to follow us, because again, with the issues with that promoter, this 6-month angle that had been built up was made as the semi-main event just to put another match on after the fact. But those guys were, as good as their match was, they were set up to fail because of where they were at. And then, I guess I'll say another match that happened right before that was a tough one from what I remember of it. I tagged with my friend that I mentioned earlier that blew his knee out recently before my match. We tagged against Cedric Alexander, who's now with WWE, and another guy. And I forget what the spot was, but as soon as we went to lock up, one of them just completely just drilled me in the forehead and knocked me loopy. And I don't remember tagging my partner in anything. I just remember coming to on the apron saying, "What happened?" And then he tags me back in. We get into the match. I take a double super kick, and they make contact again as I'm on my knees. And it's just like, man. So, I mean, like in 2012, those would probably be the two roughest matches I had. But, I mean, for different reasons. But, I mean, still, I can joke about it now because I didn't have any serious damage out of it. But it's like redacted memory. Like you start the footage, lock up, black screen, fade to the finish right there. They're standing over us 1, 2, 3. But I mean, it was fun stuff. And then, saying that I did an hour-long Iron Man match, especially after, the Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart thing and how big of an influence Shawn was to me, like that was really cool to say that I did that and prove that I was in shape enough to actually do it.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. So is there a particular goal or mission that drives Flynn Hendrix?
In all honesty, it's kind of a two-part thing. The biggest things are providing for my family more than anything, because I would love to say that this is what I do full time. I would love to say that, being a traveling world champion pays my bills. I would love to say that being an entertainer pays my bills. But I would also love to say that what I'm doing and chasing these dreams set the example for my kids to know that no matter what they want to do, no matter how big their goals may be, that it's attainable. It's 100% attainable. Even if people tell you that you're aiming too high or your goals are outlandish, then good, you're on the right path. Just nothing is out of reach if you believe in it. So it's just setting that example for them and anybody else that may be worried about that or may need somebody to look up to. Those are the biggest things that drive me. And it's more so doing it for them than doing it for myself sometimes.
I got to say, I did some reading on you, and you are 100% a family man first. I get that out of the reading, and you said you touched on mental health.
Oh yeah.
And taking care of yourself. And I'll be honest with you, one of the reasons why I do this podcast is because we work with foster kids in the emergency shelter here. We have 8 at a time, and it's very stressful. It can get very overwhelming. And this 8 o'clock to 9:30 at night, it gets me away from reality for a minute.
Oh yeah.
And that helps my mental health, because it's just chaos, and so when I read this about you, you took a break from it because you got married, you had 2 boys, and you went through a rough spot when you lost your dog or your dog. And there was a whole. So
Oh,
I don't want you to go into that if you don't want to. But
I don't mind it at all because, in all honesty, I hate to say it, not tomorrow, Monday, but Tuesday will be the anniversary. Like 2022, when I jumped back into everything, was kind of like the perfect rise and fall of the tides, because as one thing went good personally, something went bad professionally, or vice versa. Something went great professionally, something went bad personally. And, on August 1st, it's the anniversary of the dog that we rescued last year in the midst of losing our other 2, attacked our youngest child, and we had to go to the emergency room. So, I mean, it was literally just a walking crap show last year, because we start the year off like with 5 months of taking our first dog to the emergency vet. And to fill people in on the story, he was our second dog. We got him not too long after we'd been married, but a couple months before our first son was born. So he kind of helped us get ready to be parents, because, we had to wake up in the middle of the night, take him out, just basically things you would do as a parent with a baby.
Right.
And, just in the fall of 2021, he started getting these big swollen lumps on his face. He started losing his hair. And I thought it was because we had a yellow jacket nest in the backyard. He was just allergic because he was a white pit bull. And, back and forth emergency trips to the vet, all this different stuff, thousands of dollars in bills, stress racking up. And, come January, we think he's all right. He has like 2 good weeks, and then it just declines. He goes to skin and bones, hair falling out. He can't hold his bladder anymore. He can't even eat. And, so we make the tough decision to just do the best thing for him. So we took him to the emergency vet, and, before they even finished the full injection, he was gone. He was tired. He was, he was ready to go. It was not easy, because it was like losing a kid. And then in the midst of all that, we find another dog that the Humane Society rescued down about 45 minutes south of Nashville from this terrible dog fighting ring. He'd been starved, he'd been malnourished, and they'd rehabbed. Nobody was adopting him, and he was near an identical clone of the dog we just lost. The dog we lost was named Mo. This dog was named Bo. He was black instead of brown. He had black spots instead of brown spots. But I mean, he was the sweetest dog you would see in these pictures. And even when we got him home, he got along with our older pit bull, Elliot, that I'd had since 2012. But in the midst of all that, Elliot, who would have been 10 that year, he just randomly lost use of his back legs, and come to find out he had developed an inoperable tumor on his spine. And I had to go this one alone, because, he was kind of my baby. My wife loved him no matter what, but he'd been with me through everything, and made the tough call there. And then doesn't click till after the fact, but we lose him on the day that would have been our other dog's birthday. So, it all kind of hits at once, but then things start picking up again. Things start getting good. And then we do the SummerSlam thing. And then, I come home from the pet store. I got the dog a new toy, and he's playing with it. The one time that we're not in the room with our 2-year-old son and him, he goes up and tries to grab the toy, and he gets him right on the forehead. And it was, the most traumatic thing. And it was a lot of, like, is there a way we can keep him? Is there a way we can fix this? What do we do? Can we rehome him? Because if there was a way to keep him in the house and keep our kids safe, I would have done it, no matter how much it would have cost, how much debt it would have gone in. But there was absolutely no way. And we tried to find somebody to rehome him that would understand the situation. And it didn't come to that. And the only option was, because he was still growling at our son, we had to put him to sleep too. So we ended up losing 3 dogs in the span of 7 months. And it just, and in the middle of all that too, my godfather got diagnosed with cancer. My mother had open heart surgery. So it was literally like one thing after the other, just trying to get my head above water to, to get a breath and just get a moment where something wasn't going wrong. And it took its toll at home. It took its toll on everything. And I buried myself so much in this podcasting and wrestling that I was trying to avoid facing it. And the only real escape I got from any of it was watching my oldest son play baseball more than anything, because there was no stress, no worry. It was just watching him have fun and watching him develop. But what should have been an escape in a healthy way ended up becoming an obsession with the podcasting, with acting and wrestling. And it caused a little bit of tension at home as well. But we got past that now. We're in a better spot, but it's just, we've talked about it. I started going to therapy about it because it's something that I thought I could handle on my own, and I was completely wrong. And even the therapist said, I don't know how you made it that long and didn't break, because that was just blow after blow after blow. And I still don't know. I hope, I never wish that on anybody, even if I play a bad guy when the red light's on. That's the absolute worst year of my life, hands down. And I would never wish that on anybody. But what should have been my escape through all this, I ended up using the wrong way and just burying myself in it so much that it became an addiction all over again, but probably the wrong way. But man, it was, like I said, it was the worst year of my life in more ways than I ever would have expected.
Wow, man. Justin.
So with your mental health, with your mental health, what motivates you every day in your mental health? Because I deal with PTSD, bipolar, anxiety, and all that.
And I'll be honest, I've got, anxiety and depression. And for the longest time, my wife had been making the suggestion, you should talk to a doctor about it. You should talk to a doctor about it. And I always thought, because you see the commercials, there's all these different side effects that could come with it. And it's like, it can fix this, but you're going to have these 3 things after the fact. Well, I ended up biting the bullet because I've known my doctor. He's been a family friend and he's never steered us wrong. So I got on antidepressants, and it has made a big difference in everything. I started talking to a therapist. And the biggest thing on top of that was I didn't want to bring all of this negativity to my kids, because, as I mentioned earlier, I didn't have the best father figure to look up to from a biological standpoint, and I didn't want to be the same thing for them. And they ended up having some PTSD out of it too, because I still deal with it from the dog attack. And it's one of those things that you can't get through on your own, and you have to put the man pride away. Just be willing to talk about it, because it can devolve into things that are worse. It can lead you to different addictions that can lead you down a path you might not come back from. And nobody wants to deal with the after effects of that. And it's just, everybody deserves a chance to be happy. And sometimes it just takes getting out of your own way to get to that point and just talking to somebody. And if there's anybody that's hesitant about that, I'm endorsing it right now. Don't be afraid to talk to somebody.
Absolutely, man. And that's what we all need to hear, that, because
absolutely,
face it or not, I used to say, I don't have anxiety. No. I don't have that. And I found out real quick I was fooling myself. You can't hold things in. You gotta find an outlet. You got to. And so I thank you for sharing your story.
Of course. And on top of that too, it inadvertently ends up coming out the wrong way to the people that you love the most. And that's not fair to them in any way, shape, or form. And again, I say this as a guy that plays a villain when the red light's on, but in all honesty, prioritize yourself, prioritize your mental health, even if it means you have to be a little selfish, because some people may not have your best interest at heart. I hate to say that, but you've got to have a full cup so that you can give to others who may not. And if you have to be selfish to do that, then by all means, please prioritize yourself. And if they truly love you, they'll understand.
Right. 100%, man. So, let's talk about seminars. How important to you are seminars for wrestlers, for acting, for fans? And how important I guess it would be a big combination question. How important are the fans to you and the interactions in the meet and greets and so on and so forth?
Okay. So that is a great question. And this is something that I live by right, wrong, or indifferent. But I mean, I look at it as every day we have a chance to learn something new. We never stop learning. And these seminars, not everything that comes out of one may be something that you can apply to yourself, your life, or your career, but you can also learn things not to do. Like there's something you can learn because these people that we're paying to go to these seminars for, whether it's acting, self-help, wrestling, whatever it is, they've achieved what we're trying to achieve now. They've been to the top of the mountain where we're trying to go. So if you can financially afford it, or if you can pull off a way to get there, make that chance, because it's only a better investment in your future and your career, because you never know. That word of mouth, they may still be connected to somebody where you're trying to go, and that person may know a casting director, may know a booker, may know talent relations that says, hey, I need somebody that can do this or that looks like this. Oh, well, this guy really stood out at my seminar. Let me give him a call or get you in contact. It's not only a great way to learn, but it's a great way to network and make connections and get yourself out there. And it's just, what's the word? It's invaluable knowledge. You can't put a price tag on it, especially if you're dedicated to this, because I mean, the list of guys that I've been able to train with, like I mentioned earlier, Tracy Smothers, so early into my career, knowing the impact that he's had across so many people that are still like at the top of the game right now, that still hold him in such a high regard, that still talk about him on a weekly basis on podcasts. Like, it's insane. And then, you know, like somebody like a Kid Cash, who's near my size, running you through a military style, training weekend that you're also dumb enough to go and make, wrestle shows on in between too. Like it literally gets you ready for like what it would be like on the road when you're on 3, 4, 5 days a week and you don't get a chance to go home. You maybe get to sleep 2 or 3 hours in a hotel. Then you have to get up, travel, go to the gym, all this stuff. Like it literally prepares you and helps you get ready so that when you show up there, even if you have no idea what you're doing, you look like you know what you're doing and you look like you belong there. And you have a little bit of confidence to know that I was trained by somebody that was here. I at least know something to do when I'm here that can help me or make me stand out or not get me shown the door, but it's the most invaluable thing that you can do and the best investment you can make in whatever you're trying to do.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Going back to the fans, for example, this is one I hate to say like I clash with people on this, but there's a lot of old school mentality that a bad guy should not associate with with the fans, and everything. But if they're doing meet and greets before a show and I'm out there, if the people haven't been following the product or they're new and they don't know that I'm a bad guy, or if it's a fan that may be afraid to approach me because they've seen me be that bad guy, that's my chance to be a little human with them so that way they have a little bit of an investment in me, whether they turn around and hate me for it, an hour or two later into the show or whatever it may be, or that eventual time that I finally become the good guy. Like it gives them a chance to get invested with that person, because if they're not invested, they're not going to boo. They're not going to cheer. They don't care. And if you're not getting a reaction out of them, then what are you doing? That there's a chance too, you might not come back. That promoter might not book you again, and if they can get involved with you and know they'll get a reaction of you if they throw some booze or they throw some heat your way, then it's a job well done, because these people come to be part of the show. Not, sometimes if the entertainer in the ring doesn't know how to, pull the strings and keep them in check, they may overtake the show and completely steal the thunder from the performer, but they want to be involved. They want to boo. They want to be brought in, because if the good guy's getting his licks on you, they want to cheer for him. They want to see the bad guy who's cheated their hero for so long finally get his due, and then he cheats them again. And then they're so invested again that they, they are the lifeblood of what we do, because I mentioned, earlier, COVID was kind of when I stopped watching wrestling full time, because something was missing, and it was the fans. It was the energy. And the performers have even said it too. It's a process to get that adrenaline rush when you don't have thousands of people cheering for you, and you've got to worry about all these protocols and different things. But when you can have people, even if it's a small crowd of 50 or 100, if they are lively and they are into it, then it makes all the difference in the world, and it makes what you're doing mean something.
You're true, because I go to a every 2 months there's an indie show here in town, down the road from me in the Panhandle of Florida, called XIW, and an amazing group, an amazing event, and there's some, if there's a talent there that just doesn't interact, you're like, who cares, and he's not missed the next show.
Exactly.
So what they do, I think, is the same thing that you're saying that should be done. They come in there full blazing, and you know who they are, and they're interacting. So yeah, I thank you for that, JB.
What is the future like for you?
Man, that's a tough call. It's really hard to say, and it's hard to put my finger on the pulse for what it's going to be, because I wasn't expecting this opportunity with AIWF to pop up. Right now, I know I'm trying to capitalize and get and travel as many places as I can, because I know that there's an opportunity for, out of the country bookings. I've never had a chance to do that. So far, I performed in 16 states, and I'm about to add a few more to that list within the next year. But, I'm just hoping to, have a profitable, safe year with these bookings and these acting endeavors as well. Juggle them, have a good, healthy home life, and be healthy at the same time. But in all honesty, the biggest thing that would be on my checklist is to either, get back to WWE and hopefully have something fall into my lap where it's a long-term deal, or even if it's with another company. If I can make a steady career and a steady living, I'm not going to complain, because it gives me a chance to better provide for my family and do it with something I love. But I think the biggest thing that the future is going to hold is a lot more, what's the best way to say this? A lot more loudmouth, consistent, egotistical Flynn Hendrix spiel, I guess is the best way to say it. More of what you would expect from me, and a lot more microphones in my hand for sure, because I want to make sure that everybody remembers that I am the AIWF World Television Champion. And if you want to prove that you're TV ready, you have to beat me. So I guess being the measuring stick of who's TV ready is what's on my docket for the foreseeable future.
That's awesome. So you're indie wrestler, obviously you travel from 16 states, you said. Is there a lot of road time, or do you fly? And if so, what is a good story you could tell about a road trip story?
Oh boy. Okay. So I've driven more than I've flown. Right now, the only promotion I've ever flown for was Legacy Pro up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when I did their Showcase of Champions last year and the Black Friday Brawl. But man, okay, so I've got two. One's more recent, and again, one goes back to that magical year of 2012. Do you want them both? Do you want me to pick one or the other? Do you guys want to pick?
Go both. Why not?
Okay, so we'll start from 20. We'll start from 2012 then. I won't give this guy's name, but his initials are RBG. He was running a promotion that was associated with NWA out of San Antonio, Texas, had a pretty stacked lineage behind him of things he's done. We had agreed on this booking 5 or 6 months in advance. Actually, it was the night that I had worked Kevin Douglas for the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Championship. We worked this out on the way back home from that town. It was going to be me, the guy I ended up working in that Iron Man match, and a third guy going down to San Antonio, Texas in July. Well, it comes down to me and the guy that I worked being the only ones that went. And people were warning us about going ahead of time, saying, be careful. This guy might pull some shady stuff on you. This might happen. And if it does, let me know. Well, talked to him the day that we left. Thought everything was fine. He gave us the hotel we had a reservation at. Everything was good. He gave us the address, so we took off. Made a night of the drive down. Got down there early in the morning so that we could hopefully check in early and get some sleep before the show that night. Well, we get there early and we can't check in, so we just park my car out in the parking lot and just roll the windows down, take a nap. Wake up, go get some food, come back and try to check in, and lo and behold, sir, we don't have a reservation for you. There was never a reservation made at this Days Inn hotel that we were told.
Oh.
Given a reservation number, given a name, everything. It was it wasn't real. So that's strike one. Try to call the guy, straight to voicemail. Try to call him again, straight to voicemail. Try to call him a third time. And this, I ended up leaving him a pretty colorful voicemail. It's like, what's going on? Like, we agreed on all this stuff. You told us this was going on, this, and this. We don't even have the address for the building. We just need to turn around and go home right now. And then lo and behold, 5 minutes later, guess who calls back? So he says, I'm sorry that fell through. I meant to tell you, here's the address for your new hotel. And this is where it gets even better. So we go to the hotel. It's in the slums of San Antonio. It's a near dilapidated hotel that his cousin owned. There are no other occupants at said hotel but me and the guy I rode down with, right? So the key's just under the mat waiting for us. That's how, how magnificent this was. So we get there. There's only cold water. So we can only take cold showers. I throw my head back, say a few 4-letter words, and just take a nap for 2 hours. Get up, I fill my water bottle in the shower because the sink doesn't work. Again, go figure. So we go and try to find food. Then we go to this building that's in the back of a Salvation Army building. No signs for wrestling, nothing. Oh, God, and it gets better from here. There were more people in the locker room than there actually were for the show that started an hour and a half late because they didn't know how to work the sound system. In a building with no AC. We ended up working 2 times. So we worked different local guys down there in individual matches. Then we came back and worked a tag team with his top trainees who were called the Texas Tornadoes. So it gets so good here. With the 8 people in the crowd, one of the guys uses cooking oil to make himself look, like he's got baby oil on, and he's already sweating. I'm already sweating. We go to do something, and I'm supposed to try and do this, but he slides right off of me. It's just like sweat and cooking oil, and he just shoots off like a rocket ship, and he gets mad at me for it. And it's like, okay, find the logic in what you're saying. But we get past that. We go to the back. We start waiting. Like we change. We're soaking wet. We get back into our dress clothes because we thought it would be appropriate to dress professional. And we sit there. We wait. Everybody else is gone. This guy's still there. And we go, hey, do you mind if we get our payoff and go? And he goes, oh, there's no payoff. Excuse me? It's, and my mind starts going into instant Carney mode, and I start bringing up, we talked about this on this day. You gave us this. You told us this. You told us it would be more than we make in Nashville, yada, yada, yada. But he's like, no, I never said that. I never said that. And there's people watching it now, and I'm just trying to find something I could take that would be of value to what he would promised us and pay. And the only thing I could see was this overweight 13-year-old Chihuahua that his ticket lady had sitting in her lap. And I'm like, I wonder if I could take this dog and we could get out of the parking lot before they caught us. But ended up just throwing my hands up in the air. We went and got dinner, overslept, and got on the road late the next morning, and then got a speeding ticket on the way out of Texas. So it was like the best of the worst road trip I could have ever asked.
Jesus, I guess, man.
And then this one was for one of my last times last year going up with WWE. It was in Indianapolis. The call time was 2 p.m. their time, which would have been 1 p.m. ours.
Okay. Me
and another guy left at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, which should have given us plenty of time to get up there and, be in the building before call time. We get not even 30 minutes out on the interstate. We get to the Kentucky state line. The interstate shut down. It flooded from a heavy rainstorm we had. Oh, no. So that slowed us down a little bit. They finally got it drained. They got the highway crew out there and everything. We get past that. I'm hammering it, watching for cops, trying to make sure we don't see any. We don't get pulled over for a speeding ticket. We get to Louisville. All lanes are shut down. I don't know what it was. There was a big crash. So we had to get off and take these back roads to find the next exit where we could actually get back on the interstate. And we're emailing, the person that booked us. We're texting the talents that we knew were there and telling them the situation. And I was in near full-blown panic attack mode because it's like, this is my second time back this year, and it was how long before this? I don't want to mess this up. And they could not have been any cooler about it. I mean, like, we ended up getting there 2.5 hours late, but they were so cool about it. It's just like anything that could have gone wrong on that trip for us getting there did. And it's like, who gets a flooded interstate? Then an hour later, who gets a shut down interstate? Like, how does that happen?
Yeah,
and
that's not
why
common.
in the same day? But, you know, thankfully we were cool about it. We got to joke around about it, and Charles Robinson busted our chops for it. So, I mean, it ended up being a good time. So
awesome, man.
It was fun. It was like, again, best of a bad situation. You got something to laugh and joke about now. So here I am telling this story.
Yeah. JB.
I just want to say thank you for everything you do. Keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing.
Man, thank you guys for, you know, giving us this platform, giving me the platform to come on here and talk like I know what I'm talking about, and just, you know, have some fun chewing the fat with you guys. Thank you for giving me the platform to do it. And thank you for being fans too.
No problem, man. So I got children I take care of. They have some quick take questions.
Sure. Let's go.
Favorite food?
Favorite food? Oh man, you start with a hard one. You know what? Can I just say Mexican food? Can I just use that as a broad answer? Okay, cool.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
100% yes. I love Hawaiian pizza.
Cartoon. Favorite cartoon?
Favorite cartoon? Right now it's Archer.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie? Okay. It's gone back and forth. I'll give you the 1 and the 1A, but the 1 is No Country for Old Men, and the 1A is Anchorman. So it's like opposite ends of the spectrum, but it's a stacked cast in both.
Favorite song?
Favorite song? Man. Oh man. Okay. There's a guy, I think he's based out of Nashville, but I found it my senior year of high school. The guy's name is Matt Carney. It was on his debut album. It was called Bullet. And it's about a guy he wrote the song to his wife, basically, about how she supported him when he was at his lowest of lows, trying to get his start. And now here he is, like, he's touring and everything. So it's very parallel to, you know, like what I've done as an entertainer, and it really stuck with me. But Bullet by Matt Carney, if anybody wants to look that up, is definitely worth a listen.
You play video games?
Not anymore. I don't have the time, but my son hogs the Xbox though, so it's all MLB for him.
There you go. I see a bunch of figures behind you. Is that what you collect?
Yeah, probably more than I should, and I'm also trying to downsize right now too, because you can kind of see it over my shoulder here. I've got a makeshift voiceover booth right here, but I'd like to have a little bit more room for that so that I can have a better sound area. But that's all stuff that, you know, like, it was my passion in middle school and high school, just all the stuff that wasn't cool at the time then, but it's absolutely popular now. Love Dragon Ball, wrestling, Star Wars, all that fun stuff.
Awesome. Favorite place to travel to?
Favorite place to travel to? Vague answer, but honestly, anywhere with a beach, anywhere that's got sand and water. Most recently, it was Clearwater, so we'll go with that.
You ever been to Destin?
Yes. Oh, it's been way too long, but that used to be our family vacation spot.
When you ever come back, let me know. I live 15 minutes from Destin.
I will take you up on that. Trust me.
Fort Walton Beach, Florida.
Yes. All right.
So back to the wrestling. You have any hot takes on Adam Pearce?
Oh my God. Okay. Man, I love that guy. I love just randomly chiming in on his interactions on social media. And he's talked to me a few times backstage. Whether he remembers me from these posts or not, I don't know. But I always love throwing in, like, I used to be a big fan of the Colt Cabana podcast, and he would go on there and talk about this character called Dice Man, Ronnie Vegas. So I will randomly throw in Dice Man bits on, like, little comments on things he says. And he was one of those matches that got away back in the day, or that I was told was supposed to happen. Back when I was the Mid-America X Division champion, I was feuding with the Mid-America Heavyweight champion. And originally there was talk of bringing Adam into the territory, since it was an NWA territory. And there was going to be a triple threat match between us. And I looked so forward to that, but then everything else happened, and the NWA in Nashville at that time fell apart out of promoter squabbles and different things. And I think then it eventually ended up going to what it became then with Rob Conway and all those guys. So it never happened, but I was told it was going to, and it's the one match I would have absolutely loved to have had. So I can say that I competed for the 10 pounds of gold.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
And it couldn't have been a better guy to hold it either.
JB.
Like I said, keep up the good work. Thank you for coming on the He's Pop Wrestling Podcast. Keep up the good work. And if you got that call up to WWE, who would you love to work with?
Man, there are so many guys, but I'm going to tell you the one that jumps out more than anybody is The Miz. I would love to work with The Miz. He's got the ultimate position there. I mean, like, he is the most reliable talent I will say they have, like outside of a John Cena who's not there consistently, but you need him for media. You need him for a talk segment. You need him for a quick squash match. You need him to do it over heel. That's the guy. And in all honesty, if he needed a manager, which he doesn't, I would kill to be in the managerial spot for him. Be his agent, be something. But just to work with him, man, that guy does not get his flowers near enough.
Absolutely. He's the guy that I believe they I don't want to say underutilized, but use him wrong in sometimes. And I see them doing the same thing with Grayson Waller.
Right. I think with Grayson though, I think there's something coming from that because with this writer strike going on, certain people have a little bit more free time from everything I've heard, but from what I've seen with Miz, I can agree with that, but at the same time, if he wasn't so good at making chicken salad out of chicken crap, I don't think they would put him in that position because he is a guy that can elevate anybody around him and then still keep himself elevated where he could lose to the worst person they have up there, but then he could be in a title match the next week and it would still be believable. So, I mean, he's just it's the worker's curse more than anything. You're so good that you make other people look better when you're really the top of the top yourself.
Yeah. Do you acknowledge the tribal chief?
Oh, for sure. And I will say too, if you haven't been to a live event or been on the floor when that happens, like when his entrance happens, you're missing out. Like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it right now. Just it is an absolute experience when his music hits and then he comes out, you see the fingers go up, the lights, the camera lights go off on the phones, man. It is an absolute insane, undescribable experience.
Yeah, he was in Pensacola 2 years ago. My son and I had third row seats to that, and that was epic. It was fun. So I'm going to ask the TikTok question of the Wrestle Talk. So,
all right,
who is the all-time WCW heavyweight champion?
Man, is this including the NWA? Like before it became WCW or just WCW Turner time?
I'll just give you the answer. It's David Arquette.
Oh, okay. Man, and see, here I was going to go Hollywood Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, that part of WCW is my favorite. I loved it when when Hogan came down and Daytona Beach. He walked in there, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Hulk Hogan should have saved Macho Man Randy Savage." And and at that point in time, if you remember, wrestling was dead.
It was
like something's going to be big has to happen. We see these Hall and Nash a couple weeks before that doing their things for about a month, like bullying their Eric Bischoff and all those guys. That's the thing, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Hogan, man, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, he's going to come down and save him," and he flipped.
The ultimate good guy became.
And that was, to me, that was the restart of wrestling in that era.
It was.
And I was like pumped about it. So that's my favorite, all-time favorite. That's my era of wrestling. I love it. So yeah. Now where I was gonna go with that. But no, that was probably one of my favorite things in wrestling. So who's your top male wrestler today and in the past?
Okay. I gotta give this guy credit because I'm still trying to angle a match with him somehow, some way, but I've got to give Matt Cardona his flowers just for everything he's done to reinvent himself on the indies. The buzz that he's gotten and everything that he's doing right now is just absolutely insane, but it's so well deserved. Like, the people are finally getting to see this talent that he's had. So again, if that match will happen, I'd love to see, have who's the bigger collector on the line or who's got more titles, which will probably be him, but we won't talk about that. But I would say Matt Cardona today, and then of yesterday, it would probably be Shawn Michaels.
So Matt Cardona, if you heard this right, Flynn Hendrix today, 7/30/2023, 1 year anniversary of his SummerSlam show, is challenging you, Matt Cardona, on the Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast to come and take that AIWF title or put up your titles. What do you say, Matt Cardona? This clip will be on TikTok. It's going to be on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook page. Answer the call. That's on you.
I know you hear me, Matt. I know you hear me.
There you go. I just real quick, I want to talk before we close the show.
Yep.
Just because I'm a podcast guy and JB's a podcast creator, tell us briefly about your podcast.
Absolutely. So it goes back to my catchphrase that I just used right there. I know you hear me. I hemmed and hawed about starting a podcast for I don't know how long, and then inadvertently stumbled upon the podcast convention. I'm drawing a blank on the name of it, and just saw everybody there. I saw Conrad Thompson, saw Jeff Jarrett, Tony Schiavone, all these guys that I listened to, and all these other people, and they were so motivated and so inspired about what they were doing. So I just said, okay, it's time to finally do something and, crap or get off the pot. So I started putting a list together of all these people that I've met, whether it's been acting, wrestling, entrepreneurs, like friends I've got that started tattoo shops, authors, all these people that I've come across that, people may know them, people may not know them, but they know something they're associated with, or they may have heard this person's voice in a big toy commercial and just don't know that person. So, there's a chance to give these people a way to tell their stories that they may not have had. Like Chris Michaels, I mentioned earlier, was my first guest. That guy had a hand in helping with Brock Lesnar, Shelton Benjamin, Randy Orton, all these guys in OVW. He'd been on the cusp of being with all these major companies, and he just never got the contract himself. So it was a chance to tell his story and tell what kept him going, even though most people would have just thrown their hands up and said, I quit. Or going back to the mental health aspect with actors, a lot of people in the creative endeavors tend to deal with anxiety and depression and all these different things. So selfishly too, I wanted to learn how they navigated these highs and these lows. And if it gave somebody else a chance to, keep them from doing something that they couldn't come back from, then, it was a success, even if only one person listened. But it was just a way to get my friends' stories out there, meet new people at the same time, and then come away from it feeling like I'd just been talking to a friend that I've never even met before. And, as it's coming up, this Friday will actually be 2 years of that. So, I'm still trying to figure out where the time went and where it goes from here, but it's gotten me a lot of people on the show that I never, ever thought I would get. And it all came down to just, a friend making the connection, or me just randomly shooting off an email and hoping for the best. It's like all these different things that I never thought were possible ended up coming true. And it's still going to this day. People still listen. I'm trying to act like I'm not just like, why is this happening? But it's still like, it's one of those things where I never thought it would be me doing it, if that makes sense. But it's been an experience, and it's been a fun ride.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast fans, you heard it from Flynn Hendrix over the last hour. I am going to give Flynn Hendrix the floor in Flynn Hendrix mode, as you would. Any challenges, any warnings, where you're going to be? Let's close the show Flynn Hendrix style.
Absolutely. So we're going to cover everything, because a television champion, a world television champion, if that, isn't limited to just a wrestling ring. As a matter of fact, our friend Rick in the chat tonight, he joined us. I'm going to be on his show later this week. If you want to check out the PWZ network, make sure you catch me on there for my second appearance. And then from there, I'm going to be in Ripley, Tennessee, 2 Thursdays later this month. And I'm also going to be in Monticello, Kentucky on the 19th. I'm going to be defending the AIWF World Television Championship wherever I go. If you want to bring me there, if you want to bring me to your promotion, if you've got somebody that you think deserves the shot and deserves to be TV ready, line it up and I'll prove you wrong. And if you want to keep up with everything I'm doing, if you want to hear my podcast, if you want to buy the merch, you want to buy this shirt that my friend Katrina drew, very talented artist, go to Linktree/the Flynn Hendrix. Check it all out. I've got social media, podcasts. See me on the news. See me, on Monday Night Raw. See me on SummerSlam. Find out about the movie I did with Amazon. And then you're also going to know if you buy a shirt, if you buy something off my website, 10% of every sale goes to the Nashville Humane Society and to St. Jude. So, I mean, I might be a bad guy, but I've got a soft spot for animals and kids. So let's help them out too and get some soft, cool shirts while you're at it. But in all seriousness, Monticello, Kentucky on the 19th, Ripley, Tennessee later this month. I'm going to have all that on my social media. So go to Linktree/the Flynn Hendrix. Get connected, follow everything I'm doing, and subscribe to the YouTube channel while you're at it. And subscribe to the Huge Pop Wrestling podcast on top of that, lest I come chop you and then hold this title over your face and remind you that I'm better than you. And I know you hear me.
And there you go. And then Matt Cardona, if you don't understand the warning, Flynn Hendrix challenged you to come after that AIWF belt and maybe put up some of yours. Thank you for watching the Huge Pop Wrestling podcast. Mr. Hendrix, JB, meet me in the lobby. We love you guys, and we're out. Xtreme.